Welcome back, everyone, to the afternoon of day 2 of ClayShareCon. I'm Jessica Putnam-Phillips, and I will be your host and moderator for this session. We have Debbie Dela Cruz, the founder and owner of Dela Designs, joining us today, and she's going to be doing a little demo with her products. She makes these amazing cutters. So this cutter right here, not only is it great to make a little smile through, I made this with it. So fantastic cutters, and what I love about her cutters is she has them set up so that they work with GR pottery forms. So if you have GR pottery forms or are thinking about getting some, you might want to pick up some cutters. A couple other dishes. We were just chatting with Mako. They were just on. This is a cutter from Debbie. This is the spherical triangle form from Jeff from GR Pottery Forms, and then that glaze is the cenote glaze from Mako. So if you are interested in some of the newer glazes. And then I have a Debbie soap dish form, and here's a soap dish made with it. So you can see there's lots of options. She also has these ultra cute stamps, and I've got a few spring ones, and I just want to share. She has these really sweet little gnomes, and I'm sure she's going to share them, but here's a mug I made using her Christmas line, and I've got that really cute little winter gnome holding the deer, and it's still winter in Vermont, so I am still full on winter mugs and winter theme here, but you might be someplace warmer, so maybe you don't want deer and winter hats, but for us, we're still living that life. So let's get going and bring Debbie in and hang out with her for about 40 minutes. Hey, Debbie.
Debbie. Hey, everybody. Hi, Jess. Hi, Kevin.
I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you. I'm Debbie, Dela Design, and our website is Dela Design Gifts. And like Jess said, we're making stamps and cutters. I'm going to take you on a little studio tour. We've done it a few times already, so we'll make it quick. But if anyone has questions or anyone that's new and wants to see the studio, we will go for it. So this is our building in our backyard. It's about 1,600 square feet. This is kind of an office area we have going here. And then our 3D printers are back in this area here. My husband's here working on printers. We have 45 printers right now. And they are all printing stamps and cutters. Here's one printing a soap dish. And this is one of our alphabet sets going right there. So we use 3 different sizes of printers. We have the Ender 3s, which are our small printers. And then we have a medium-sized printer, which is the CR10. And there's a cup template that just finished printing. And then we have our big printers. And most of our big printers we've moved back into the house because we ran out of electricity out here. And these are a little bit harder to work on. They take a lot more effort and a lot more tweaking constantly. So the bed is so large on it, it's a constant battle to keep them level. So that way it's a little easier for my husband to work on them when they're in the house. So coming back around to our studio, this is where we kind of stock items and fill orders. And there's some of our bigger ones. And then this is how we fill our orders here. We just line them up on the tables. We print out the orders about 50 at a time, and then we start loading them onto cards. And then we start printing them and start filling them. And then this is where we clean up the prints after an order is complete. This is our shipping station. And these are all ready to ship right now. Unfortunately, with the weather, I don't have a shipper here. So hopefully tomorrow the road's clear and they can come out. So then coming back around.
I don't want to interrupt you.
No.
Everybody always wants to know about your printers and what software you use.
I design with Fusion 360. Here it is up on my computer. There's one of the. So that's to create the 3D files. And then I use Cura, which is a slicing program. And every file has to be sliced to go to the 3D printer. And then Fusion. I do a lot of my design on Adobe Illustrator usually because it's something I'm familiar with. So I'll create the design there and then I drag and drop it into the Fusion 360 to make it 3D, because everything you can do SVG files is usually what I make. And then from an SVG, you can convert it to an STL, which is converting it into a 3-dimensional piece. So this is our office area. We're also a vinyl business. So this is our vinyl business in this room here. And then my pottery room is just right off the side where the shipping station is. And another question I've gotten is about storing them. I do store mine on a pegboard. I've never had problem. Make sure it's not near a kiln because that's happened before. And no high heat. You don't want the sun shining directly on them or anything like that. But I've got these have been stored here for probably 2 years now, maybe 3. And I've never had a problem with them. There's another pegboard of them. And then of course my rolling pin storage, and I do the stamps. I have these drawers that I can do by season and store all my stamps in that. But another idea I had for people that don't have the pegboard storage is I have one of these large drawers underneath my slab roller. Fits perfectly underneath there, and those are cheap and easy, and that would fit a lot of your large cutters as well.
Yeah, the under slab roller drawers are great.
Yeah, it fits great under there with my trash can and some wear boards, and I have my silk screens and my underglaze transfers and all of that in there, but it would be a good place to store the cookie cutters as well. So anything
Everyone
else?
Is saying hi to Luna.
Oh,
Luna's the shop kitty.
Well, let's say hi to Luna. She's keeping us company today. Hi, Luna. Hi, sweet pea. She's not so sure about the camera.
Yeah.
Anything else?
So, any other ideas besides pegboard for, I guess, hanging? I mean, the drawers are good for flat storage, and I think hanging pegboard.
Right. I mean, hanging obviously is the easiest and best solution for being able to find things easily, unless it looks like mine. I would probably pay someone to come and organize for me if, anyone wants to come do that. But it's easiest to see, but I know not everyone can hang stuff individually and have the room to hang on the pegboard. So even maybe just like some little hooks or thumbtacks if you don't actually have the pegboards. Not too sure what else. I mean, you could obviously put it on shelves or maybe even stack them, vertically, like some people do on like the dishwasher racks.
Yeah,
possibly.
My studio has a lot of big nails in them, and so I've just been hanging them on the big nails. But I don't think I already had them there in the space I'm in currently. I would not have chosen that, and nor do I plan to have those in my next studio space. But wherever you can hang them, right? Whatever they hang off of.
Yeah, I think hanging is a great solution. I'm putting this camera back in and going to this one. So
Stacy says she'll be there in June to organize for you.
Oh, awesome. I tried to get her to come now, but she said the weather is too cold. I don't know why. So another question I get asked about a lot is the choosing the size for a form. And I have a few examples here. So on these forms, these are 1.5 inches bigger than what the cutter is 1.5 inches bigger than the form. So that gives a pretty decent edge. I originally always said about 1 inch bigger on plain surfaces and about 1.5 inches on the scalloped or decorative surfaces. But that's because I wasn't as experienced with making the forms. And the smaller the rim, the easier it is to handle. So now I started venturing into going a little bit bigger on my rims. But I think for a beginner, I think doing a little bit smaller rim is you're going to have a little better luck with. So these are all examples of the 1.5 inch rim. Here's another one. And then here's a solid edge, and it has a 1 inch rim, which is a smaller plate also, and it's a plain edge. So just a little 1 inch rim is all you need on that. And then this
and it's also perfect with the size of the little plate too. You don't want that giant rim on a small plate.
Yeah, definitely you don't want to go big on the small plates. There's another one this one is 1.5 inches. And then I know some people say that they order the same size rim as the same size form, and then, that's not quite what you want to do. So I have an example here. These were made with the same form. And this one obviously has almost no rim at all. The form was the same size as the cutter. This is the one that the cutter is 1.5 inches bigger. So you'll kind of see that even though the size is the same, the base is the same size, it's your rim difference. So I hope that answers some people's questions. This was the same cutter used with 2 different size forms. This was the cutie, so it's got a nice little rim to it. And then this was just done with the next size up, but the same size cutter.
It's great to see the different options too, if you want a bigger rim or maybe not really a rim at all.
Absolutely, yeah. So you can kind of do what size you want. Here's an example of one of so here is the 6.5 inch GR pottery form. And then here's some of the cutters. So the smallest one is the 6.5. So you'll see it's the same size as the form. So you're really not going to get much of a rim at all, just barely. So then if we go up to, see if this is the next one up. This would be the 7 inch. And not much of a rim. You're getting a little bit there. But the 1.5 inches bigger is what I recommend. And that's this one right there. So that's normally why I recommend 1.5 inches bigger on your rims. But again, you can go bigger, you can go smaller. This would be a 2.5 inch rim. And you can definitely do that. Any other questions?
Yeah, some folks are wondering if you'd be willing to make the flower test tile cutter that Maria Sampson shared in her broadcast yesterday. Because that flower is great.
I have a flower similar, but that one looks like it has more petals, and the petals maybe come out a little bit longer.
They do. The petals stick out.
Yeah, because that gives you a little more surface area, and you could even bend them up, I think, for doing your test tiles. So I will absolutely put that on my list. I think that's a great idea. And if someone were making it, I wouldn't do it because I'm not going to copy someone else's work. But
nobody else is making it.
It's no longer available. And if it's no longer available, then I will go ahead and make something very similar then for people, and we'll get that added pretty quick.
She could give you dimensions or trace it and send you an image of it so you could get the size. I'll talk to Maria unless she's watching right now and she feels like that. But I know Georgie's had it made for their test tiles, but the gentleman who made it, they're not doing custom work anymore. They just won't. So, and that's not something they ever made and sold publicly. So it's not out there.
It's a great idea for test tiles. I've actually, see if I have one. Here lately, I made a whole bunch of these sweet little Easter eggs.
Oh,
and
very sweet.
I made like 30 of them last year, and I never glazed them. So now I'm using them for glaze test tiles, and I've got a whole bunch of them done, and they look so pretty.
Beautiful.
So I was going to go ahead and do a plate, a larger kind of a tray size plate, and show a different way to do the form on it and the edge. What I'll be doing is this size form right here, and then the big scalloped oval that matches it. Don't remember what size it is. I probably should have looked at that. So GR measures their forms on the biggest area, which is the top, you know, whatever edge you're looking at, it's the biggest edge. So this is a 9.5 by 11.5, and this is an 1.5 inches bigger. So it would be 11 by 13. And what I like to do on a smaller form, I'm gonna cut first and press into foam. But when I do something bigger, I like to cut afterwards. So I'm gonna kind of get an idea of what I'm doing here. So I'll put my cutter down the opposite way. And I'll just kind of cut out a little bit what I'm doing
Would
here.
you say your slab is about 3/8 of an inch thick, or
Yes.
is it more? Okay.
No, it's 3/8.
I was guessing 3/8.
Yeah. So then I can leave this down and lay out my form how I want it, or lay out my design. And I'm going to use this cute little gnome truck that is brand new. Another thing I can do too, to get an idea of where this edge is place this down and kind of give a little rock to get an idea of where my lines are. So when using the bigger stamps, you can't really just press down. You kind of have to work it down a little bit, kind of rocking a little, and kind of going one area at a time.
So we have a few questions while you're working. Have you ever thought about making flower cutters that can be used together to make a 3-dimensional flower, like to make a peony or a rose or something?
Yeah, I have thought about that. Definitely on my to-do list, along with a lot of things, but I do have the flowers available in lots of sizes, so you could kind of nest together to a little bit make one. But I know it's not quite the same as like if you did where they roll up, or, you know, like the little bitty one, cookie cutters, and they roll it up, gives a little bit of a different look to it. So again, after you've got it pushed down where you want it, and don't go too deep, you'll kind of also have to kind of work it out a little bit. And that one actually came out really easily, but sometimes it suctions with the clay and you have to kind of work it a little bit out. But that's a good imprint. Sometimes you don't get a good area and you can set it back down and you can kind of feel around until it locks into those grooves, and then you could press down an area again. So I came up with all these new little hand designs that are new. There's a little beer stein, which I think is adorable for St. Patrick's Day, or maybe Father's Day, or just whatever. This little balloon. There's a flower, which would be a nice Mother's Day one. There's a few new Easter designs, a clover for St. Patrick's Day, a star, and there's one of the bunnies for a little chocolate bunny for Easter. And then here's the Easter egg. So I'm going to make a special day plate. When I was a kid, we always had this big plate that we got out for like birthdays and, you know, congratulation type things. And I don't have one anymore. So I think it would be fun to have one and get it out anytime you want to celebrate something fun.
So with the pressing, would you recommend using some cornstarch to keep it from sticking the first time you're using it, you know, when they're brand new?
I do have cornstarch here, and I dust. Once you kind of get familiar with them, you really almost don't need it. Once you kind of know what level of your clay is at, Usually I do dust them in the beginning. You can see some of the ones I have sitting here are a little bit white. But after that, I don't dust again, but I don't wash them either. So they just, this one, this was a brand new one. I didn't dust it at all. No problem. In the beginning, I was always dusting, and I don't know if I just got more used to the stickiness of the clay and when to do it, but I don't normally dust them. So try it, see what you think, but I definitely recommend it. And I recommend playing around with them a little bit, practice stamping, practice getting that rocking motion. Here's one with words. So it's going to be a little different here. And kind of give it a little bit of a rock. And that will help with, just practicing with it and getting to know how well it works. So I've got this kind of centered, and I'm going to do a couple little stars around it and make it fun and festive.
So while you're doing that, we had a question. You were talking about the size of the room for plates and platters. What about somebody wanted to do bowls, like stack bowls? How would they determine the size rim for that?
Usually that's kind of a tough one. And I just made one recently where I stacked the GR powdered forms to make it. And I did go probably about 2.5 inches bigger than my biggest form. And I did cut afterwards. After I stacked and flipped, then I cut, which is what we're going to do in a few minutes here. But I think this is a pretty good design here. It's nothing too over the top, but I think it looks good. So what I would do here is I'm going to transfer this to my smaller board. It's a little easier to handle. And I'll place this back down again to see where I want my form. And then I'll center my form up on it. I'll go ahead and remove that. And then I will flip. I think people asked about my wear boards last time. These are great because they're lightweight. They're only a 1/4 inch birch, but they warped terrible. So I can't really use them as wear boards, but they're great for being able to flip. So I'm kind of just patting it down to start with. And you kind of want to push in a little bit and not down where that line is, where that edge is.
I think everybody, when they're first using GR pottery forms, you're going to get some cracking. You're going to press too hard. You just got to get used to using them.
The first ones I made, I got where the rim completely, cracked through. And I think
I ended up making a lot of cheese boards because I had what happened is the very bottom just popped out as a perfect
that's a
circle.
great idea. Just cheese boards.
Yeah, and then so they popped out during the drying, so I just wiped the edge and glazed them as completely flat discs, and I had a whole bunch of cheese boards. So I learned my lesson pretty quickly. You just want to be mindful of that edge where the bottom meets the side.
Right.
Don't press hard on it, because what happens is you're thinning the clay. It's going to dry faster there and crack. And so that's
why I really like to more press and pat it and not so much scrape it. So now that I've got this on here, I'm going to cut my border out. So I cut afterwards instead of before, which also gives me a little bit bigger of a border than if I had pressed it if I had cut it before and then pressed it, because all that clay is moved up and in. And I'm just gonna eyeball. If I were doing a big rim, I would probably want to measure and, do my edge. The saw tool would be really nice to get a measurement first and then know where to put your form or your cutter.
And this is perfect for everybody out there who doesn't like cutting the shape first, then draping. Right. That's how I do that. I cut my shape, then I drape. But a lot of people have difficulty.
That's the way I started out doing it. And I always do it with smaller forms, but I just had better luck with the bigger forms. And then also with like the forms, the shapes, like when you do, the Christmas tree shape, you kind of lose something when you're trying to get in those recessed areas. So if you cut afterwards, it keeps the shape better. And I will usually go ahead and pull my clay off from around here before I lift off that way I can make sure it really got all the way down. And I'm working on a board that's kind of warped too. And then we'll just pull that off. And we will wait a while before we flip that, so I won't show that today, but I'll post this online when I get it done. I'll probably add a foot to it, but I think everybody's seen Jeff do the foot and seen Jessica do the foot, so I will move on to other things instead of that. But if there's any questions about that.
I think everybody's good on that. We did have some folks asking what would be good cutters to use with the hexagon forms.
Oh,
but I don't know if you have that planned. I don't want to send you running all over.
No, I do have hexagon forms in here somewhere. I have two different, I have a solid edge and I have here's some little ones. There's some little bitties. So I do have the plain edge and I do have a scallop edge. And at some point I'll be adding more edge designs, but it's just, getting around to doing all of that.
And then
another oval I have though that's popular is a tray design. And that is this design here I call the tray, or an ornate oval, I think is how it's listed on my website. And that's a popular design. That's really pretty.
And then with these scallop cutters, some folks have asked, if you ever have issues with cracking where the scallop comes in and makes that inward V, how do you deal with that? Like, are you have any tips or tricks to prevent cracking?
I have
for the cutters?
On some of the bigger scalloped edges, I will wax them. I'll wax where that crack is. And usually I don't have a problem with it, but I have a couple of times.
I find that what happens is that area tries to dry a little faster. And that's why we're getting cracking there. So it's the clay actually pulling apart and causing that crack, and that crack will continue to happen. And so like Debbie said, waxing is a really great way to deal with that. Or else dry it very evenly. That's the best thing with pottery. Yeah.
So I don't know how much time we have, if we want to do another project or just
we have got till 3:15. So yeah, we've got another 14 minutes.
Okay.
And here's a good foot question. When do you need to add a foot? Is it based on the size of the plate?
I would normally do it right now. I would do it at the same time I'm making it. It's just, I figured everybody's seen it and doesn't need to see it, but that's when I would do it.
But you don't need to add one if you don't want to. A foot is it's a completely personal decision. Like, it's your own aesthetic. And if you want feet on plates, you put feet on. If you don't want
I oftentimes don't do, this.
Like there's a nice big
little tray, which is perfect for cookies. There's no foot on that. My little ones, I don't do feet very often. It just depends on what I'm doing and what I'm going to use it for, I think. I have this. This is another example of that ornate oval, and this is a big one.
I love that.
Which I have not had a chance to glaze yet because it doesn't fit in my kiln, so I have to take it to a friend to have her glaze.
I hear you. This is what happens is you get excited and you make a piece that's too big for your kiln, and the next thing you know, you've had to buy a new kiln because it didn't fit in the kiln.
Yeah, I thought about that. So another thing real quick to show you is you don't have to use these with the forms. This was made on, one of these.
Yeah, on a little drape mold.
I put it on there and, put my foot on. So you don't have to use forms. I love Jeff's forms and they make everything very easy, but you don't have to do the forms with them. You can do other things.
Yeah, and you can make your own forms. I have a bunch of classes on Clayshare teaching people how to hand build or wheel sew your very own forms. And it's so easy. You can also use found objects for forms, bowls and such. You do not have to buy GR pottery forms at all to use these cutters. No, but it's nice they do match up, but you're not limited at all. There's so many options.
Right. And you can buy, a cutter that matches a form, and then you can use it for other things as well. You could use it for other form sizes to get different size rims. And you could use it, to make bowls and, all kinds of different things. You can make ornaments and plaque hangers and anything you want that uniform edge for. This might be getting a little stiff. I've switched to a new clay, so I'm not quite used to it yet. The clay company near me that was local went out of business.
Oh no.
I've switched. I used L&R porcelain, and now I'm switching to Kentucky Mudworks clay, and I'm really happy with it. It's just, it's always, everything's a learning curve. So we started the bowl last time and didn't get very far on it. And a lot of people have asked again about it. This is the bowl cutter. And another thing, people have asked for a bigger bowl. And I will probably try and make a template for a bigger bowl. The only problem with it is it's going to be, if I get too much bigger, it's going to be hard to get your clay rolled out. So I may do it in 2 pieces, just so you're not having to do such a big piece of clay and have waste. But I'm going to do like I did before, where I'm going to cut it down a little bit. And the only reason I do that is so that I can work with my design when I'm stamping. And you could rolling pin this, whatever you're wanting to do. But I'm going to go ahead and do a stamp design. And I'll go ahead and just mark it. Yeah, let's just do the end of that. Kind of give me an idea of where I'm going on this. And we'll do another example with the clay or with the stamps. And I do like to, I normally work standing. It's just, it doesn't give me a good camera angle. And this clay is definitely stiffer than I normally use. So I'm going to press a little harder than I normally would. And also this is a more intricate pattern. So you're going to press a little harder with an intricate pattern like this. And again, with the more detail, you kind of want to rock it a little bit. You're not just going straight down.
So we had a great question. How do you prevent warping on your pieces?
That's a good question. I'm not sure I do. And, some stuff warps. I don't know if I've gotten lucky or most stuff isn't too bad. I'm usually pretty happy with it. Like, this guy, I don't think I got any warping at all there. I don't normally do anything really huge because I don't have a big kiln. I have the Scut 714, the little baby, and I have access to a kiln at the studio, but I don't like having to wait on them. So I don't do a lot of big stuff, but I do dry really slowly. I do cover up, and I have some shelves with some like a plastic cover around it. But if I do a tray, it's probably, I might let it sit a month just because I'm not really in a hurry usually. So I think that'll be a pretty design there. I don't know how well you can see it on the camera. Can you see the designs?
Your camera's gone to low connectivity, so we've got you as a little teeny tiny picture.
Okay.
We'll see if
well,
we can get the. We'll keep on keeping on, though. It's good. Keep going.
Yep. Okay, we'll just keep going. Yeah, we've got lots of ice out there today, which
yeah, I know
is why
your
I don't have
weather
any employees. It was thundering like crazy this morning, and it was pouring down rain, and it was 20 degrees. So I'm sure our roads are a disaster.
And I want to let everybody know if
really loud.
Yeah, the weather has just been crazy this year. I want to let everybody know there's a lot of questions coming in. I'm trying to pass them all to Debbie. I'm not going to be able to get to them all. So you can always reach out to her. Also follow her on social media and you can see what she has going on there. A lot of times she answers your questions without you even asking them because she explains things for you. So
I do have Instagram is Debbie_Dela Cruz. And then the Facebook page is Dela Design Pottery Supplies. And I think that's something like that. But yeah, follow there and you can ask questions there. And I try and post pretty often, and I will post when I make something, I'll post the products I used, and I'll post other products like when I use Jess's rolling pin or what clays or glazes I use. And I'll, post what forms I use, things like that.
So some folks are asking, could you use a rolling pin for the cutter? Could you roll a plain rolling pin across the back of the cutter to help it cut into the clay instead of just pressing the cutter into with your fingers? Yeah. Just roll it.
Actually, yes, I have done that before, and it does work. As long as it's like the right size and it doesn't roll off the edge. And sometimes if your clay's a little soft, you'll push too hard in one spot, and then all of a sudden you kind of got a little bit of a mess. But I have done that. I've even done that with the stamps before. So I don't know if you can see anymore if we've lost picture, but I've got my form here. I
can see it.
Okay, I've got that there. I beveled the edges. Let me do a base because I kind of forgot the base. And I like to stamp my base as well. I'll just put one in the center, maybe.
So for those who want Debbie's Facebook, I'm going to share that for everybody, and I'm just going to link it in the comments so you can click on that to go follow her page.
Grab that. Oh, we were going to do alphabet stamps on my plate, and I forgot to do it.
No, you'll have to come back another day.
Yeah,
you'll have to come do another one. And the Instagram name is as Debbie's name, so
that is Debbie_Dela Cruz.
See if I can go to Insta and grab that too.
And this is really no different than making a cup. You've just got a little more angle and it's a little shorter, but you're gonna connect the same way. I know people, before we get too far, people asked how to keep it round, and the 6.5 inch GR pottery forms works perfect for keeping that top round. So that's what I recommend for keeping it round. instead of the flower pot that you do with when you do a cup. And another thing, before I put my base on, I'll check to make sure it's round, and I can just take the cookie cutter and put it on there and just kind of work it that way. And that way I know I'm round to start with. So another thing I got excited about yesterday during Michael Harbridge's stamping, he had those, the colors of earth pigments. Is that what they were called, Jess?
Yeah, Colors for Earth with Paula McCoy. She's going to be here Saturday and Sunday.
I ordered those to try out. I have used the ink pad before. Has anybody used the Potter's ink pads? You can.
I've never used ink pads. I've watered down my underglaze and used them.
I have stamped with them before and gotten a pretty good stamp. And you can just do it on the surface. That one wasn't. The thing is, there's not very many colors of these. And you can stamp, or you can even still stamp and imprint at the same time. So you can kind of have two different looks there, whether or not you press it in or just do it on the surface. But I'm excited to try those other inks with that, with my stamps.
So there's a conversation about the thickness of clay. A lot of people were taught that slab should be 1/4 inch thick, but we're doing 3/4 inch, because I do 3/4 inch. You do 3/4 inch. 3/8. I'm sorry. Why do I always want to say 3/4? It's just math. I wish we did centimeters.
That would be really
make my life it would be really thick. Centimeters would make my life easier, because you don't really. It would be easy. For me, 3/8 of an inch is what I start with. But by the time I smooth it, I add my texture, I stretch it, I add volume. It thins itself down to about 1/4 of an inch, or maybe even a little thinner sometimes. So
that's what I think, that I go a little thicker, because I feel like I'm compressing quite a bit and stretching and different things like that.
And if you go too thin to start with, you're not going to be able to put your texture in. And then if you do try to add volume, your clay will stretch too much and it can crack or even break on you. So you need that material to get your forms. So I always suggest, everybody's different. Everybody works differently with clay. You try a 1/4 inch thick slab, see how you like it. Try a 3/8 inch slab, see how you like it. Don't do 3/4 of an inch. So that would be too thick, I think. Unless you're making bricks, and then that's a whole nother thing. So we got about 30 seconds left, sadly.
Okay. Well,
before we go, it's always fun.
It's always fun. Ask questions online and I'll answer there.
Yes, please. So this broadcast will be up for replay on Facebook, on ClayShare, on everything. So you can go ahead and ask Debbie your questions there, and she can get it. You can always message her too, and she'll get back to you through that. So thank you, Debbie. What a wonderful tutorial. Love seeing the studio.
Seeing you, and your haircut looks great, by the way. I didn't want to. All right, so that was wonderful. I always love having Debbie on with us, and she's amazing, and she's got so many cutters, and there's so many great ways to use them. So check her out. I did share the link in the comments for the discount that she has, so you can go and save yourself a little bit. We are giving away tonight a gift certificate to Dela Designs gifts.com. So a $50 gift certificate, or if you're outside of the US, a $70 gift certificate. So that's one of the many prizes we're giving away this evening. I haven't been mentioning the prizes as we've been going through the broadcast today, and I should have been, because you see my list? There's a lot of prizes. So, all right. So now we have a really great broadcast. It's not a tutorial. It's going to be how to buy the right kiln for you. We were talking about kilns a lot today, about getting a kiln that's not big enough because you realize, uh-oh, I made this platter that's too big. Well, this kiln broadcast is going to be getting the right kiln for your pottery budget, pottery making needs, and electrical budget. So we'll be talking with Drew and folks at Clayscapes Pottery in just a bit. So come back and join us at 3:45.